Allison Sargent joins me on the set now to take a look at what's been making headlines around the world. Hi, Allison.
Hi, Jeannie.
Lots of focus, obviously, in the United States, back in the throes of the gun control debate in the wake of Sunday's shooting at a Texas church. Although, with this kind of major shooting happening almost once a month now, it begs the question, is there anything really new to say?
Well, Jeannie, there's one paper in the U.S. that's actually been saying the exact same thing after every mass shooting for the past 3 years. This headline may sound familiar to you. No way to prevent this, says only nation where this regularly happens. Now, this is from satirical paper The Onion. I pulled out not only their post from the day after Sunday's shooting, but also the one they posted after the Las Vegas shooting last month. You can see there, it's the exact same article. All they did was change the photo. This article from The Onion has become part of sort of what you might call a post-shooting ritual in the U.S. It goes viral every single time.
Now, the Texas shooting, though, has given conservative papers something new to say, or at least provided some new evidence for an old theory.
Right, this is the idea that more guns are actually the way to prevent mass shootings because the only way to stop them is, quote, a good guy with a gun, or, as was the case on Sunday, a plumber with a rifle. Now, the story of Stephen Williford, the man who chased down the gunman with a rifle in Texas, has been getting a lot of attention in the right-wing media in particular. Conservative paper The Wall Street Journal, as you can see in their editorial, uses him as an example to argue that, quote, the harsh reality of mass murders is that often only the presence of someone with a legal weapon to shoot back can stop the rampage. Now, you can read a direct refute of this argument in Slate today. This writer looks at, says, as heroic as Williford was, by the time he intervened, the massacre was already over. Good guys with guns can't always be everywhere that bad guys with guns go. And this writer and many others in the left-wing media today are reminding us that really when it comes to gun control, statistics speak for themselves. The more guns you have, the more gun-related deaths there are. Arming good guys with guns would actually only benefit one group, and that is the NRA. And you can see in this cartoon from The New Yorker, even when the American flag is flying at half-mast in mourning, the NRA's flag never lowers. It might even fly a little bit higher.
Allison, let's come back now to Europe, where papers are continuing to focus on the Paradise Papers, that new financial leak, adding to the list of people and companies now who are legally evading taxes.
Right, and different papers are focusing on different people and different companies, so I pulled out a couple front pages for you today. Belgian paper Le Soir is talking about the financial gift Belgium has been giving to Nike. The paper writes about a Nike distribution center that employs 3,000 people in Belgium, but has paid almost zero in taxes to the country. Meanwhile, in Süddeutsche Zeitung, you can read about Apple's search for a home base with, quote, without, quote, transparency, taxes, or pesky political opposition. According to the German paper, Apple eventually found everything it was looking for in Jersey, where the tax rate for companies is just 0%. And finally, on today's front page of The Guardian, you can see racing driver Lewis Hamilton pictured here with his private jet, a jet he did not pay taxes on, thanks to a tax scheme involving the Isle of Man. Now, the figure getting the most attention after yesterday's revelations was the Queen of England. Many felt her actions were not quite living up to royal standards, and in this cartoon from the Times, we can see the flag that's known as the royal standard flying over Buckingham Palace, but it's changed a little bit, you might notice there. It has some money bags and a palm tree. One tourist is saying, it's not the royal standard I expected.
Also today marks the 100th anniversary of the revolution that ushered in communism in Russia. It's known as the October Revolution, even though we mark it today in November.
That's right, Jeannie. That's because one of the changes that this revolution ushered in was a change in the calendar. So it happened first on the old calendar in October, but on the new calendar we use today, it was on November 7th, which is today. It used to be celebrated as a very big national holiday back in Soviet times, but in recent decades, its meaning has become much more ambiguous. Vladimir Putin actually replaced it in 2005 by a so-called National Unity Day that Russians celebrated on November 4th. Now, the Moscow Times went out on the street yesterday and asked Russians how they feel about the October Revolution 100 years on. It turns out they're very split. Some wish that the government was going to mark this centennial, some are glad that it's not going to mark the centennial, and some just don't really care one way or the other. And according to many analyses, this difference of opinion in Russia is actually the main reason Vladimir Putin has chosen not to mark the anniversary. French paper Les Echos spoke to the woman who ran Paris's Lenin Museum before it closed, and she says Putin wants to avoid anything that could divide Russian society. The paper also talked to a historian who says there's a second reason Putin might not want to celebrate the revolution, and that's that he doesn't really like popular uprisings. Putin has said that the Bolshevik movement slowed down the development of the country, and he really wants to focus on national unity and continuity.
All right, Allison, to wrap up now, we'll focus on a one-woman popular uprising. This is about a cyclist in the United States who gave Donald Trump the middle finger, and it turns out she is now facing the consequences.
Right, this is 50-year-old Julie Briskman. A photo of her flipping off Donald Trump's motorcade went viral last week. You can see that photo again here in the Huffington Post. Now, they report she has been fired from her job in the HR department of a government contractor, Akima. They said she violated the country's social media policy by making this photo her profile picture. Julie Briskman, though, has no regrets. She told the Huffington Post, in some ways I'm doing much better. She says, I'm angry about where our country is right now, and this was an opportunity for me to say something.
It's all about freedom of expression in the U.S. Thank you for that, Allison. Allison Sargent there with our press review today. You can get a closer look at that, of course, on the website, the address france24.com.